call the meeting to order. Welcome anybody that's watching via the video as well as those present. Start with the agenda. Entertain a motion second to accept the agenda as presented.
Move approval.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Right, the agenda is approved. Public forum. We'll go ahead and open the public forum, and I see we do have some public here today. So,
Okay,
Darrell, go ahead and step up.
if I can see here. Okay, good afternoon. I'm Darrell Stagey. My wife and I live at 912 Ashbury Drive. And my purpose here is to request change to the net metering methodology that Waverly Utilities uses and a suggestion for the website. A little background here. In the summer of '22, my wife and I researched solar power for our home. The motivation was quite simple. Eliminate electrical bills from our monthly expenses. We certainly feel that as we look at retirement income, which isn't going to be increasing, and looking at what electrical bills could be in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years down the road, probably aren't going to stay the same. So it was something that we could have an effect on. Certainly cost was a consideration. This is not a cheap endeavor for a homeowner to do. But there is some motivating things that was helpful. The 30% federal tax credit, I'm not sure if it's there right now, but it was then. There is an increase in property value. Studies have shown that, and they range between 9 and 12% immediate once the house is operational with solar. To me, that pretty much pays for it right there. And then it is environmentally friendly. That's not our motivating number one factor, but we do what we can for the environment and hopefully lessen the impact of generating power elsewhere. So in the fall of 2022, after consideration, we did contract with Eagle Point Solar out of Dubuque. And the reason is they're 23 years of experience. They're a turnkey operation. They have in-house engineers. They design the system, they install the system, they have in-house electricians and installers, and they do permitting also. So I didn't have a clue as to what was going to be involved to get this going. So we wanted to wait, and the first step was that Waverly Utilities provided them with, 12 months of actual usage. 12 months, that's the number I want to remember. We wanted to wait until we had a full 12 months of solar generated electricity, and we have that right now, which brings me to net metering. I do understand how net metering works. Net metering works as follows. You have over a 12-month period, there's fluctuations a lot in your solar generation. You have sunny days, like today, and the meter runs backwards unless you're using all that power. You have cloudy days, or like yesterday when it was smoky, I don't think we generated anything. But May, June, July are generally excellent. November, December, June, not so good. So engineers design the solar system to be neutral over a 12-month period, not monthly. So here's the facts, which I wanted to have. I think I have enough for everybody here. 5 people. I'll just pass those around. So this is our residents generating power over the last 12 months. What's really important on this graph are the numbers that I put down below the graph. The graph is simply the yellow bars indicating how much we generated. The green bars is what was projected. So if you look at May of 2023, we generated, well, what was billed was minus 627 kilowatt hours. So we generated more than we used by a lot. So what happens with that? Well, on a monthly reconciliation, which is what Waverly Utilities uses, you paid me 5.5 cents for those kilowatt hours. Actually, it was 3.5 cents last year. It somehow changed. What happens to that electricity? Goes back in the system. You turn around and sell it at 12.5 cents. We had no intention of generating power for the utilities. And in fact, that's what we're doing here. And I was told by a Waverly utility employee that we have a good deal. I disagree with that. I'm generating electricity from my system, putting it back in the system, but you're selling at 12.5 cents, and I'm getting 5.5%. But that's not really what I'm going to hear about. If we do this on an annual basis, you take that 627 that we generated in May, and you apply it to in October, when we didn't generate enough, which was, we paid for 479. That's the way it should work. That's the way it does work with solar engineers when they design something for the Midwest. This is not Orlando, this is not Houston, this is not San Diego. We don't have reliable solar, so they design it over a 12-month time period. So what I'd like to suggest is that you consider moving to a 12-month period. I don't care if it's calendar or fiscal year or when we started our full generation, which would have to be in a May, but true it up. Make payments to the residents based on that. I think that makes it equitable. Right now, you're reimbursing at 55% of what you're selling that for. I don't think that's right, but anyway, that's what I'd like to have you consider doing. I know it probably takes computer work or Excel spreadsheet or something to keep track of that. Bob could probably do that during his lunch hour, but, I don't know.
Bob Bruncourt.
Yeah, Bob, that's right. I'm ignorant of how that works. I want to thank the utility for their help in getting, whenever I did have questions, but transparency on how this works is not evident. I was told by an employee that I just didn't understand net metering. I do understand net metering. I understand how it works. I didn't understand, and I take responsibility for that it was done on a monthly basis. Another big supplier in this county is Mid-American. They true it up on an annual basis. That's how they do solar. And I was also told that Butler County only pays 2.25% or 2.5% for your excess. I really don't care what Butler County's doing. It's not where I live. So I would like to suggest a change to the website. Getting information is not easy. You go to your website, you don't find anything about solar for residences. So I think for people that are considering solar, just be aware of what it takes. It takes about 7-8 months. Be aware that you're going to have a design made. Be aware that you're going to have approval of your neighbors. Be aware that you're going to have to go to P&Z. Be aware that you're going to have to go to Board of Adjustments. I don't know if those are all things that take place now, but it does take, and then inspections and so forth, and eventually you get to turn it on. I guess that one thing, and looking back at this graph, if you look at the very bottom there, we generated 10,402 kilowatt hours during that first 12 months. Kind of hard to see, it's in yellow. What the array was designed to produce was 11,444. Sometime during this process, we were told by P&Z that we had 2 panels too many. Well, with 50% already paid for, I was anxious to get this project underway. So, okay, go back and take them off. We're not generating enough electricity to satisfy our needs on an annual basis. So that's just another point. I guess the last question we would have is, would we install solar today knowing what we didn't know back then? And the question is, absolutely we would. I think it's the right thing to do. I appreciate your time today and your consideration on this proposal, and I hope I can come back here in 6 months or 12 months or whenever and say thank you for making net metering the way engineers design it to be done in a climate like the Midwest. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Darrell.
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, my phone number and my email's at the bottom. If you have any questions or if you think anything I said was not correct, please let me know. I'm willing to talk about it. Okay?
Darrell, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Did Did you show this to Eagle Point, and how did they respond?
Eagle Point sent me this, that's what they do after 6 and 12 months. I didn't ask them about, the projection versus the actual.
Well, I mean, did they oversize it for the Midwest? Once again, I mean, they had a program here, last November, and they talked about this with the.
Oh, they were here?
Yes.
Oh, good.
In Waverly, at the Waverly Library.
Oh, wait, yeah.
And they talked about making sure that you don't size it too high.
Right.
And I think they were even thinking, like 40%, not 50%, but, so have you talked to them about some of your concerns and making sure that did they size it correctly?
I have not talked to them about that, but that's a good idea. I was a little surprised when P&Z said that we have it oversized.
Yeah, I didn't
By
know.
2 panels. That just didn't, they have full-time engineers there, solar engineers, and I don't know if we do in the city here or not, but how did they determine, maybe they had some conversation with Eagle Point, I don't know.
Yeah.
Of course, it's okay to take it off and not have to pay for those extra 2 panels, but still, if you look at on a cumulative basis here, what was projected, and if you add all these numbers up here, the minus signs and the pluses down here, we did not generate enough power to cover our needs in total for the 12-month time period. So I do plan on going to P&Z and seeing what it would take to put a panel on.
Yeah, I mean.
Not to add a panel, not take one off.
Once again, I mean, we are doing adjustments. I mean, like our monthly rate, base rate is going up because of, not just like people like you, I mean, other people too, that we have expenses, we have, minimum.
Of course.
we have to cover. So that's why our monthly base fee is increasing.
Yeah, I mean, that $23 a month,
Yeah.
fine, I don't want, but that's what happens is you get credit for 5.5 cents and it goes against that.
Yeah.
And if you have a really good month, I'm starting to have my garbage rate decrease. That's not the purpose why I put in solar.
Yeah.
$23 a month, fine, absolutely. I'm sure that'll go up through the course of time too, but I just want to eliminate the monthly charge. I mean, we're still paying a couple $100, and if you look at December and January here, pretty minimal generation.
Okay, so I just want to clarify, on the voided cost rate that you're using, that does fluctuate by the year, and that's set by our wholesale provider of Mean. So Mean notifies us in January that says the avoided cost rate is either going to go up or go down. It depends on what their avoided cost is as well.
What you're buying the electricity for.
That's,
Yep.
well, that's just the cost of electricity, that 5 cents kilowatt hour. The 12 cents that you mentioned is everything else that connects the power from getting it to Waverly to your home. That's the
Yep.
transformers, the poles, the distribution system. And so that cost is societized across all ratepayers. So the 5 cents is really the true cost of power of electricity, not the transmission cost and all that. So when you point out on your graph here on the months that you don't produce, you're still relying on the utility to supply, the power to your
Absolutely.
home.
In the evening,
And
whenever.
that's why that avoided cost is only paid for just the cost of the power, not that full 12 cents. Because you're basically using the utility kind of as a battery bank. On the days that it's cloudy, it's hazy, it's not producing, you're relying on the utility to supply power to your home still. If you were, some homes or customers that are entertaining the off-grid theory of putting that, not theory, but of putting a battery bank inside their home, and maybe completely going off-grid in that sense. And that way then it's, they're the battery bank then. So I just want to make sure that, you're kind of clear on the avoided cost rate there. That is generally practiced in the early days of solar, prior to solar really kind of taking off in the industry. Utilities did pay for that 1-to-1 ratio, and they've stepped away from that. The more utilities are stepping away from that, 10 cents in, 10 cents out methodology that they practice than going to the avoided cost. The reason why they're doing that is they're making it equal to the ratepayers. Customers that either don't want solar or can't afford solar, as a utility, my own personal belief is those shouldn't be subsidized. Customers that don't want solar or can't afford it, shouldn't be subsidizing customers that can. So that's where that avoided cost rate really kind of makes it fair, instead of that 1-to-1 ratio in and out.
I guess I'd say it's the transparency of how it works is what really kind of concerned me.
Yeah.
And I was told that this is how we do net metering and it can't be changed. And then I was also told that, well, you were just sold a marketing gimmick by Eagle Point Solar. I mean, at that point in time, our conversation ended. And I didn't appreciate that. But no, understand, I mean, I think Waverly Utilities as far as solar is neither pro or con. I mean, pretty much neutral. It's a homeowner decision, but you need to understand how it works. And I think for those citizens that are considering that, I'm seeing them on new houses and so forth, I'm sure they probably understand it much better than I did. Once again, I wouldn't change what I did,
Yeah.
but I wished I would have known
Yeah.
how it works. So I take responsibility for that, but help people understand that, I guess, is my...
I think you put a great point there. I think our website and knowledge and, and making sure it is sized right, so that is critical, and I think we should be able to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, yeah, kind of, push back to you hard on that. These projects are on the customer side of the meter. We don't really, our responsibility as utility stops at the electric meter, as in, we have customers that call in and ask questions about the voided cost, but like sizing solar arrays and stuff, we don't have that in-house experience to do that.
Well,
Darrell?
Yes.
I'd like to start just by saying, we really appreciate you coming in and talking to us, because we rarely get public input, so.
I'm way beyond my 5 minutes, so I know you guys will be here till 6 o'clock, and I...
We're not the city council, so we don't limit you to 5 minutes. But the other, we try to be solar friendly, and we think we are. In fact, just as an aside, we are gonna have a 23-acre solar array.
I read about that on the website.
Southwest Waverly here soon. So, we're trying to do things. I would agree with you, because I went out to the website today to find out what it says about net metering, and it's hard to find. I did find it, but it's hard to find, and then even when I found it was in the, what we call our operational rules of operation. You have to understand what avoided cost means to understand, how we do it.
Yeah.
So that term is not explained real well, I
Yeah.
think. So,
We can clean some of that up.
yeah. So I'm just saying, there's some things I think we can do to help with the transparency,
Yeah,
so.
and I think that's for people that are considering it, so yeah, I think future residents that might do that would appreciate that, so. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Kudos
Thanks for your
to you.
time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else from the public? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public forum and move on to the consent agenda items, which are the minutes from our April 9th meeting, the trade accounts for both the electric and the communication utility, and internal control cash. Any discussion on any of these items? If not, all in favor of approving these consent agenda items, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, move on to action items for the utilities. The financial audit, Kelly.
So yes, we had a good result for the financial audit for 2023. We have the person who really ran the audit on the iDaily side ready to present, Brad Keeson.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I think they can.
Great. There's a little bit of an echo, but I'll try to bear with it. Okay, my name is Brad Tyson. I'm a senior manager with iDaily out of our Dubuque office. First off, I want to say thank you for letting me present electronically today. I do have another conference that I was part of, so you guys were gracious enough to let me present electronically, so that helps a lot. Thank you very much for that. What I'll do as part of the presentation is I'll just kind of run through the financial statement audit, just like I've done in prior years. And if anybody has a question, feel free to stop and ask. So starting on page 1, as Kelly just alluded to, we have our audit opinion there. And in the first 2 paragraphs, it kind of talks about our audit opinion. And this year, as in prior years, our audit opinion was a clean or unmodified opinion on the financial statements, meaning that we agree with the way that the information was presented, and management gave us all the information and presented it in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and we have no issues with the way it was disclosed or presented within the financial statements at all. One of the other things the opinion does, it also points out that we have 2 different audits going on sort of side by side. The first is generally accepted auditing standards, which is governed by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, I should say. And this is a standard that would be set for any sort of financial statement audit that's happening within the United States, similar to private sector entities. We also have governmental auditing standards at play as well. And these are standards that are set by the Comptroller General of the United States. And since the utilities fall under Chapter 11 of the Code of Iowa, they were required to have government auditing standards in effect as well too. And these standards go sort of above and beyond regular audit standards. They have certain internal control disclosure requirements. They have more stringent independence requirements for the auditors, and they have further requirements for the auditors to review compliance and non-compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements. And so we'll talk about the internal control items near the end here. One of the other things the audit does, or the audit opinion does a good job of, is sort of spelling out the different responsibilities of the 2. Continue down the audit opinion, it talks about the responsibilities of management in terms of presenting the information in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, as well as being responsible for internal controls and maintaining internal controls on a daily basis throughout the year. And then it spells out the different responsibilities of us as auditors as well, merely that we're just giving an opinion on whether or not we agree with the way the information is presented within the financial statements as well. And then it also spells out certain requirements or certain procedures that we performed on required supplementary information in the report as well. As we move forward, the management discussion and analysis is presented on pages 4 through 11 of the financial statements. And I think management's discussion and analysis is a very intriguing part of the financial statements. I always tell everyone, sometimes we have an audit report that's, several pages long, and it's sort of tough to digest the information that's sort of being provided. The MD&A is a great place to read through and sort of get a condensed version of the financial changes from year to year. It does a great job of sort of spelling out why certain accounts increased or decreased from year to year, why capital assets went up or down, why long-term debt increased or decreased as well too. And if you specifically on pages 5 and 6, there's sort of a condensed statement of net position and a condensed statement of changes in net position that are available to sort of spell out any increases in operating revenues or net position, things of that nature too. So those are a little easier to digest. And it also provides information for the last 3 years too, which is kind of neat. When we get to the basic financial statements in here, just a minute, it only provides information from 2023 and 2022. The MD&A provides information from 2023, 2022, and 2021, excuse me. So it has a little bit more of a trend analysis in terms of what has been going on in terms of revenues and expenses over the past 3 years as well too. So again, the MD&A is a great read to determine changes from prior years. As we get to the basic financial statements, which start on page 13 and go through pages 18, the basic financial statements present the statement of net position, the statement of revenues and expenditures, and changes in net position and statement of cash flows for the past 2 years. And these statements present a little more detailed analysis of individual line items within the financial statements, so a little more detailed than the MD&A. It might have, specific information about prepaids or inventories or reserve accounts or designated accounts that the MD&A would not necessarily have as well. So a little bit more of a detailed analysis. But as you look through those and you kind of review the MD&A in correlation with those, you can see, through each of the past couple of years, there's been a positive change in operating income for both entities and a positive change in net position for both entities over the last 2 or 3 years as well too. Next up in the financial statements is the notes to the financial statements, and that starts on page 19 and goes through pages 49. And the notes to the financial statements include a significant, or a summary of significant accounting policies of the entity. So it talks about, each one of the different balance sheet accounts that is significant in operating revenues and expenses, and sort of gives sort of a snapshot of what some of those account balances are throughout the year. And then it also has certain footnotes related to capital assets, long-term debt, net pension liabilities, other post-employment benefit liabilities, and leases. If you can remember from last year, we talked a little bit about the new lease standard that was in effect for fiscal year 2022. There was also a new accounting standard in effect for fiscal year 2023, subscription-based information technology arrangements. It was GASB number 96 that management had to implement for 2023. This particular statement did not have a material effect or impact on the financial statements for fiscal year 2023, but you can see there was one SEBITA liability that was booked for both entities during 2023. So that information, or information about the major liabilities and major assets of both entities are included in the notes to the financial statements in a little more detail as well. So as we move forward on to the required supplementary information, that starts on page 51. And within the required supplementary information, there's sort of 2 different items that are presented in there. And those are both required by Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB. One is for the net pension liability that is booked by Waverly Utilities, and it provides more of a 10-year trend analysis of the liability and the entity's sort of proportion of that liability at a state level, as well as the contributions to that entity over the past 10 years. So a little bit more of a trend analysis is available there. It also provides a 10-year sort of trend analysis for other post-employment benefits, which was also sort of a newer GASB that the entity had to adopt, I believe, in 2018. So that has to do with other post-employment benefits like healthcare and that sort of thing. Next, we get into some supplementary information. And I think there's a 10-year statement of sort of changes in net position included on page 57. It kind of goes back into, again, with any type of supplementary information, it allows for a little more of a long-term analysis of the entities, changes in operating revenues and operating expenses as well too. And then finally, the last sort of component of the financial statements is the government auditing standards report, which starts on page 60. And this particular report is required by governmental auditing standards. So this is one of the items that sort of is required to be disclosed above and beyond a normal financial statement audit. And what this report does is it sort of defines any sort of internal control deficiency into 3 different types of internal control deficiencies. One, you have your sort of lower lying internal control items. 2, or kind of a step up from that, you would have any sort of significant deficiency, which would be something more in scope than a low-lying internal control deficiency. And then it also defines what could be considered a material weakness. A material weakness is any item that would have the potential to cause a material misstatement within the financial statements at all. So it defines those sort of 3 items, and then it requires us as auditors to disclose whether or not we have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report to those charged with governance as part of this report as well too. And I guess I'm happy to say, similar to prior year, we did not have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report as part of our audit on either entity. So a very clean sort of internal control report there as well too. And then as you go through to page 62, we also have a schedule of findings and responses. And this particular page, or this particular requirement, again, since the entity is under Chapter 11 of the Code of Iowa, we're required to perform certain statutory procedures related to items such as budget or questionable expenditures or related party transactions or transactions between the communications utility and the electric utility to ensure that the electric utility is not subsidizing the communications utility as well too. And again, similar to previous years there, we had no findings in any of our items to report there. So overall, I would say a very clean audit, no issues really to report on from our standpoint. The one thing I always kind of like to bring up just in closing is, Governmental Accounting Standards Board has kind of been on a kick the last 10 years with quite a few new statements that the entity has had to implement between the pension standards and the leasing standards and subscription-based information technology arrangements. There will be no, hopefully significant new GASBs that will come out that will be effective for 2024. But I know in 2025, I believe the entity will have to implement a compensated absences standard, which could have some impact on the liabilities related to sick leave. We're kind of in the initial stages of sort of identifying any sort of impact that would have as well too. But in other sort of good news, I think that's, we've sort of been told that GASB after that is sort of slowing down with the amount of standards that they've come out with recently, and hopefully they'll start to have less and less impact on the financial statements of Waverly utilities going forward. So with that, I think that is all the information I had to go through today. Does anyone have any questions at all?
Bob?
Yeah.
You have a question?
Page 13, this is I want to get some insights from you. Just looking at our insurance recovery fund, I noticed, we put $60,000 in it every year. There's no cap. I don't know if we have a cap on that. What do other utilities do for their insurance recovery fund? Do they cap it or set it a percentage of depreciation, or are we in line with other utilities?
I can't say we really look at an insurance recovery fund from a whole lot of other utilities' perspectives. That's something that's kind of like a designated fund that's determined a little bit by management or by the board. I don't think you're limited in terms of the amount that you can place in that fund on a monthly or annual basis. It's really, honestly, it's not something that's normally presented on most utilities' financial statements. A lot of other utilities will just include that cash with their normal cash and cash equivalents. But it is segregated out on yours, I think, just from a subjective standpoint, just because that's the way it's always been. I guess I don't have a good comparison to other utility entities either.
Yeah, I don't know if it's good or bad to just put in 60,000. I don't know if there'd be a cap ever, or what's your thinking?
The reason behind it goes back about a little over 20 years ago. So the distribution system is not insured. We're talking poles, lines, we have a catastrophic failure,
Yep.
storm comes through, wipes out half of Waverly. To insure something like that, an underwriter would be glad to write for you for that, but it would be astronomically expensive to premium-wise. So the board set up some 20-odd years ago this insurance recovery fund as a means to assist in the cost of rebuilding the distribution system if it was ever destroyed. Now, substations, things like that, we carry insurance policies on that.
Yeah.
The large transformers we do. I'm talking about the stuff in your residential neighborhoods, distribution lines, poles and such.
Have we ever dipped into that fund?
I think we have used it for,
Yes, so we reimbursed our out-of-pocket deductible for engine 7, about $47,000 last year.
so we use it for, deductibles. We
Yeah.
used it for the, when the wind in Canada 2 had the failure years ago, we used it for that deductible at that time. Some other miscellaneous deductibles that come about. Engine number 7, that generator number 7 that failed 2 years ago, we used that for the deductible at that time as well. So we do tap into it once in a while, but really the philosophy was going back many years ago was, again, utility companies do not insure the distribution systems. They're just astronomically expensive. In fact, I don't even know if you'd probably get an underwriter to write for one just because of the exposure out
Yep.
there. So that's what that was set for years ago, is to start building that up if something major happened, that would be.
Okay, because when I read note number 10, that doesn't really, what you just said really clarifies it.
Okay.
You know, it seems like a good practice. I mean, rather than just sort of arbitrarily having some undesignated cash, you
Right.
have, at least you have sort of a process for each year setting something aside. So,
We know that, there would obviously be some FEMA involvement, catastrophic failure of the distribution system due to a storm of some kind.
Derecho.
Derecho, something to that effect. But you're gonna always have that gap between your federal aid and the immediate need of things. And that's really, I think, what the fund was set for.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with the
Yeah,
fund.
yeah.
Is there like a cap, like I would think other people would say, okay, it's gonna be 10% of our
A distribution
capital
system.
cost
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah. We can pull the resolution out, or I can see if we can find it. But I don't believe at the time, Bob, when it was set, the board at the time had set a cap on that. Just because to rebuild the distribution system, it's probably in the tens of millions to do something like that if something catastrophic happened. So they never set a cap
Yeah.
for that reason.
I mean, I see your point too, Bob, but, 60,000 is a pretty modest amount to be put aside too, so.
Yeah, we're at 1.5 million.
No, I know, well, yeah.
I think you're just
1.4.
asking, is there 20 years from now, if it's
Yeah.
20 million or whatever?
That's what I'm.
Yeah. I mean, the board can certainly take that up for discussion if that's what you want to do.
I want, if other utilities are doing it in a different way, that's why I ask,
Yeah. Yep.
ask if there's other utilities doing something
Right,
different.
right.
So that helps. My next question is, Mean, we're partnering with Mean. If we decide to leave Mean, should we be doing anything, designating a fund or doing other things? Did staff talk to you about that? Mr. Tyson?
Okay, that's a question for me, sorry. So from a mean standpoint, we haven't really, part of our audit is not, doesn't really address, whether or not you would leave mean. I think there's a footnote in there about mean, and your commitment to them. I can't remember what number it is. But we have not really, disclosed anything about leaving mean or what the potential consequences would be.
Yeah, we're not leaving Mean yet, but if we do, I just wonder if there's any guidance or things that we should do to prepare.
I think, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, do we start the decommissioning fund for that purpose if you look down?
So we do have a decommissioning.
That's a different
fund.
decommissioning.
But is that for mean though?
Well, I don't know that we've designated one way or the other because we have several things that need to be decommissioned. But I'm, not being a part of that conversation.
Yeah, so that one was in case the 2 coal plants shut down
Lawrence,
early.
Walter Scott Laura.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
So I'm just looking at the notes I have from what I inherited for the budget, which gives me some cheat sheets on why these funds are in there. And it says, the decommissioning fund is established to help cover the decommissioning costs related to investments in the WISA and WS4 coal plants. It doesn't say anything about mean. I don't know that we thought about it back then, of leaving them and having to be responsible, but I don't know. It doesn't specifically say it's me.
Correct, that's when we set it up, and we set that up 2 or 3 years
A
ago.
couple years ago, yeah.
So Kurt missed that meeting.
No.
Thank you very much. And then, Bob, I did have a question, kind of more for you. And it wasn't out on the web, this wasn't out on the web yet. And I think we should ask staff, could a portion of this be put out there for the public early so they could see it? And I'm not sure if, once again, Mr. Tyson, do you know what other utilities do with communication? Do they publish part of this document or all of the document?
This is actually a document that's sort of required to be available to the public. I believe most of our other entities have this available online as well, and I believe Waverly has had it online in the past. Maybe I could be wrong about that, but it is something that is readily made to be publicly available.
It is available,
It
it's
is
not
on
there
our website.
before it's been approved by the board, or, it's a question that should it be up there before?
Yeah, I would, once again, this meeting, to me, would have been nice to have this put out there draft, labeled as draft, so people could look at it and comment on it. That was part of the idea, at least my idea. We had this public televised that they would have a good way to have discussion.
So
Do other utilities put it out there as a
in a
draft?
draft form?
No, not necessarily. I think a lot of entities like Waverly would, for the most part, have the draft available to management or the board or the audit committee, whoever wants to review it. That's sort of when it becomes publicly available. Now, we did issue the statements. I believe our audit opinion was like April 23rd. So at that point in time, they could have become publicly available. But really, they really shouldn't be available to the public until they're approved by management and the board at some point.
Okay.
And so what we've historically done, Bob, is after this board meeting, they are posted. The audits are out there from 2016 to 2022. So after today's meeting, we would post this document on our website.
Okay.
That's generally what we practice. Again, I guess that's board discussion if you want to change that philosophy, I don't know how we do that, but that's what we practice historically. So the audits are there, but generally we don't post them out there until after this session.
And what harm would it do to post it as a resource on the agenda?
So, Brad, if I'm hearing you right, you're okay with posting it without board approval as long as it's after it's been approved by you on April 19th?
Yeah, so, okay, we have to go through an approval process to make sure everything is reviewed, and we always do that with Kelly. We have a subsequent event questionnaire that we go through, and we obtain sort of a representation letter from management. Once that process is done and we've provided our audit opinion at that point in time, we would be okay with it being publicly available ahead of the board meeting, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable point, Bob, that how can the public, comment on it if they want to, if they haven't seen it, So if we were able to do that some way, attached to the agenda or whatever, I think that would be okay.
So the board meeting, the last board meeting would have been done by the time the April 19th date was approved. I guess we could go ahead and just post it out to the website.
Well, I can add it as an attachment to our agenda manager.
Okay.
We just haven't in the past, so I didn't.
I think that would be better because, that would indicate that the board hasn't approved it yet.
I would agree with that.
Okay. So I will give it to Angie in the future and she'll put it out there as an item on the agenda. Is that what?
That's what I would ask. Thank you.
Good. Other questions? Anything else that you wanted to say, Brad?
No, again, I just want to say thanks for letting me present this electronically. I know it helps with the other training that I have going on today, so thanks again.
Thank you. It was a good report.
Thanks.
All right. Entertain a motion second to approve the financial audit as presented.
Move approval.
Second.
Any other discussion? Let's see, we can do this by voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, the financial audit is approved. Moving on to Resolution 15-24, revisions to or review of personnel policies and procedures. Angie?
Does anybody have questions on any of them?
Let's see, you redlined the changes, right?
I guess my only question, and maybe this has to come from Brad just talking to, was about reporting sick pay. Is that kind of what he was talking about? Do we give sick pay or is it all PTO, all inclusive?
So we don't, when someone terminates, we don't pay out any accrued sick time. The sick time goes into that other payroll benefits, that OPEB calculation, where if you've accumulated vacation and sick time, you get the amount that you can be eligible for health insurance that's subsidized. So that's part of it. Yes, we have sick time that's separate from vacation time that you can use, but in the end, we don't accrue that because we don't pay it out when people are terminated. Or when they do.
Yeah, it's not one big bucket,
Okay.
it's separate.
Okay.
Everything's separate.
I was just saying, if we were to do that and you had to report that, what's the easiest way to do that later on? Is it just to go to full PTO and not have a sick time?
Yeah,
Vice versa, I don't know.
that'll-
I don't know what it'll look like.
Yeah, what it'll look like, but we'll have to do then.
For 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have to take an analysis of what's been used in the past and do an accrual based upon that. I don't think it's material.
All right, entertain motion second to approve Resolution 15-24.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Angie?
Kettleson,
Yes.
Keeler,
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Brookhorst.
No.
All right, Resolution 15-24 is approved. 3-1 vote. All right, let's see, Resolution 16-24, revision to financial policies and procedures, petty cash policy. Kelly?
Yes. Do I need to go to the front or can everybody hear me?
Can hear you. Although, let's see, maybe the public, I don't know if the public can hear you.
Somebody need to
We have a
turn that microphone.
So the next point, though, is the WMU financials.
Is there
We've got other
something wrong on
information.
your agenda?
Oh, there must be
Sorry.
something wrong on my agenda, I'm sorry, I had the,
It's information items is
Yeah.
next.
Okay.
Waverly Utilities.
I'm sorry, we'll move to information items. Anything that anybody wants to share on information? Anything on the staffing changes you wanted to go over? or?
Just that we'll have a upcoming retirement, and we're in the process of backfilling that position and advertising for a open journeyman lineman position, apprentice lineman position. So, looking at backfilling that hopefully in the next month here.
Okay, thanks, Kurt. Nothing on the agenda for other business? Anything from the board or staff? Let's see, board calendar. Anything of note there? Let's see. I'll bring it up here. Nope, not too much for the next few months, other than some financial information and so on next month. All right. Move on to action items for the electric utility. Now we're ready for the financials. Kelly?
Okay, from here?
Um,
Want me to go?
Well, is that microphone working?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, you can do it from there.
Okay. So before I get started, I'd like to point out that Eric Bierbauer is here. He is my right-hand person, and because we're going through the audit, he is a significant integral part of getting a clean opinion and doing well with the monthly financials. So that's Eric.
Welcome, Eric.
So as for the Waverly Utilities, electric utility financials for the month of March, we are again, the year-to-date total revenues are under budget by $328,000. Customer revenues accounted for $251,000 of that. Digging a little deeper, the residential was under by $103,000 and the industrial by $151,000. And then we go into the miscellaneous operating revenue, which was $77,000. All of this revenue is down basically because of the weather, and people are just not using their furnace, air conditioning. It's the weather. That rolls into the kilowatt hour sales for the month being under by 937,000, less than March of 2023. The expenses have been kept under control, so expenses were $318,000 better than year-to-date budget. Those are based upon, again, the revenues were under, so the generation and the diesel expenses are under as well. Louisa and WS4 were under by $106,000, diesel by $47,000, purchase power by $57,000, and general and admin by $26,000. This brings us into a net income that's $32,000 better than budget, which is basically on budget. So far we've been able to control expenses to offset those revenues. Total cash and investments are at $15,265,000. That is a $292,000 increase. I will put a caveat on that in that last month there's a bit of a timing issue because last month was under by $224,000. So just as a normalization, year-to-date, cash is up by $123,000 net. There was no change in the outstanding debt.
All right, thank you. Yeah, motion and second to approve the financials as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The financials are approved as presented. Now we're at Resolution 16-24, revision to financial policies and procedures. Petty cash. Kelly.
Yeah, so occasionally go through and make sure that our policies are up to date. And petty cash, the policy wasn't really being followed exactly, and it's kind of out of date. So what you have in front of you is a red line version of this. It changed some of the titles for people. Some of it just didn't make sense anymore. We reimburse at the federal per diem, so putting a limit on certain things didn't necessarily make sense. This policy is how we're currently handling petty cash.
All right, entertain motion second to approve Resolution 16-24.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions?
So on number 5, we remove travel,
Yep.
so it's not prohibited anymore in the rationale.
So travel is basically two pieces. There's a per diem that we give, which is basically the advantages, including the per diems. So when you say travel is a generic term which is really made up of your mileage and it's made up of your per diem. So to put travel in there didn't really mean anything because we're already saying that we are going to reimburse the per diems as an advance, and we're going to reimburse mileage also. So what is it? What's left in the travel? The hotel, that's reimbursed after the fact on the company credit card.
And would this So will this have any significant, or will it change? Are we gonna do more petty cash or less petty cash?
Well, this really is how we're doing it right now anyway.
Okay.
So I didn't see any reason to change the amount that we have for petty cash.
Okay. Great, yeah, hopefully, I don't want to increase the use of petty cash, thank you.
All right, Angie?
Brinkhorst,
Aye.
Kettleson,
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
Resolution 16-24 is approved. Resolution 17-24, agreement for purchase between Municipal Energy Agency of Nebraska and United Equipment Accessories. Kurt?
Try to keep it short.
Yeah.
That title. So, United Equipment Accessories is entertaining or will be installing a 600 kW solar array at their facility. Coming up here probably in the next month and expected to be online by the end of the year. The resolution that you have before you is the agreement between Mean and United Equipment. And so, kind of similar to what our smaller scale net metering solar installations are in Waverly. If there's any overproduction of energy, Mean is going to buy that power back at the avoided cost rate of current 5.5 cents a kilowatt hour. What Waverly Utilities' role plays in these larger scale systems is we're just the pass-through and the billing side. So Mean will collect the data on a monthly basis. They notify us basically if it's not a holiday or a weekend, the first of the following month, say X amount of extra kilowatt hours were produced at 5.5 cents. This is the credit that you would need to put on that customer's bill on the next bill cycle. So that would true that up then on that monthly basis. Now, again, a little familiarity with the project. As I mentioned in the past board meetings, the load that this system is sized at is about 85% of the load of United Equipment. So you're gonna have your shoulder months there, your March, April, maybe May, and then a couple months in the fall where you're gonna have maybe potential for some overproduction. We have similar agreements in place with other customers in town right now that have this agreement with Mean and their facility. So nothing out of the ordinary. It's a process. We have our board policy is anything larger than 25 kW systems. We have to the customer to enter into an agreement with Mean, and then also an interconnection agreement come to the board, which is the next policy that our resolution will discuss.
Okay, motion second to approve resolution 17-24.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion?
And like Daryl, is it a monthly or is it a hourly or,
Annual.
Yeah.
Annual. So it's a monthly true-up. All utilities do it differently. A majority will do them on a monthly. Some utilities will do it on a yearly. Now, we have limitations in our billing system where we're not able to do it on a yearly basis. Basically, what that would involve is you're banking those kilowatt hours for your.
No, I'm not talking about Daryl.
Yeah, I'm just talking about in general as a whole. Yeah, no, it would be trued up on a monthly basis,
Okay.
just like every other solar customer that we have right now.
So it's treating, United Equipment's not getting any advantage compared to a residential?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. They're residential and business customers are all treated equally on that true up, so.
Great. Thank you.
Angie?
Brinkhorst,
Aye.
Kettleson.
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Kaler.
Aye. All right, resolution 17-24 is approved. Resolution 18-24, interconnection agreement between Waverly Utilities and United Equipment. I guess Kurt's already talked about that. Entertain motion second to approve.
Move approval.
Second.
Angie?
Brinkhorst,
Aye.
Kettleson.
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Kaler.
Aye. All right, resolution 18-24 is approved as described. Resolution 19-24, accepting the furnishing of 69 kV switch replacement project. Kurt?
Yeah, so this is the final step in the accepting of the project to make final payments to the contractor.
I'm sorry. I thought did we miss 19?
Yeah, we missed 1924.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Accepting the North Load Center
Yeah.
69 kV switch replacement project.
Here's go back here. Okay, I'm sorry. Accepting the North Load 69 kV switch replacement project.
Second to the last one.
Yeah.
For this
Second.
project.
So the 1924 is accepting the actual switch replacement. If you recall, I had to split this project into two parts because of lead time and accessibility of the equipment. So the accepting of the replacement project is actually the material side of the project, and then Resolution 2024 is the labor side. But this is, what I was starting to say, is this is the last step, is the board accepting the project that is complete and can process the final payments to the vendors.
Move approval.
I will second.
Any questions? Angie?
Brunkhorst,
Aye.
Kettleson.
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Kaler.
Aye.
All right, Resolution 19-24 is approved. Resolution 20-24, now accepting the furnishing of the 69 kV GOAB switches. Kurt?
So that's the second part of
I'll move for approval of 2024.
I'll second.
Angie?
Need a, did
Second.
someone motion?
Sorry.
Oh.
I motioned and then
Okay.
Andrew seconded.
Kettleson,
Yes.
Kaler,
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Brunkhorst.
Aye.
All right, Resolution 20-24 is approved. Resolution 21-24, reimbursement resolution. Kelly?
So this is our standard reimbursement. It is only $41,498 for the month. The running total is $1,290,000. Of course, that's because we have bond proceeds that are they're being used for some of those capital expenditures.
All right. Entertain motion second.
So moved.
Second.
Angie?
Kettleson.
Yes.
Brunkhorst,
Aye.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Kaler.
Aye.
All right, Resolution 21-24 is approved as described. All right, we move on to monthly reports. And we start with Kelly.
Okay, so the CSR staff continue to perform their day-to-day functions. One thing that isn't listed here is we did bring back the part-time CSR person that was here for last summer that helps during those busy times in the summer and covers the vacations. So that is, she's already working, so that's in place. We are working on implementing the new springboard purchase order module for CCS, and we did regulatory filings. We completed the attachment O, the EIA 412, and the EIA 8621, and the electric replacement tax form C.
Very good.
Sounds fun.
Thank you. Jan?
In April, we reminded customers of the importance of calling 811 before they dig any projects that involve digging. So the message is promoted in the Waverly newspaper, on social media. We also take out an ad in the school calendar that talks about reminding people to do this as a reminder in April. So it's kind of the national month that we remind customers for it. April involved the National Line Workers Appreciation Day. The National Awards media release was published in the newspaper covering our RP3 designation, Safety Award of Excellence, Certificate of Excellence and Reliability, and our Tree Line USA Awards. So that has already been published in the Waverly newspaper. It is also on our website and will be in the upcoming newsletter. Last week, our $1,000 STEM scholarship was awarded to Luke McMillan at the WSR Scholarship Night, and that is just on the electric side. And then managed all the social media posts and interactions.
Very good. Hey, one question for you, Jen. Maybe I missed it, but I never saw the announcement of Kurt's position in the Waverly newspaper, was that published there, or?
We did not put it in the newspaper. Kurt and I talked, and he requested not to have a huge splash about it, so in the upcoming newsletter, it will be posted in there.
I did have at least somebody from the public ask me about it, so I was wondering, but okay. Good. All right, Kurt?
Yeah, so the distribution and transmission projects, back in the construction season again with the springtime weather upon us. I kind of did the miscellaneous projects around the community. 212th Street had an overhead line rebuild completed, as well as a conductor and some pole replacement due to deterioration and weather, or deterioration just of age on that project. We did a couple planned outages in April for maintenance and repairs. This is in the 2200 block, 4th Street Southwest, and the 12 and 1300 block of the 16th Street Southwest. There were just mostly transformer changeouts on those, so we coordinated with the customers that were affected at a time that was convenient for them. It was really not a convenient time to be without power, but the outages lasted less than 30 minutes to get the work done. And then we moved into some various underground junction box replacements around the community. These were discovered just through deterioration of our annual distribution inspections that we conduct every year. Again, we found them in the wintertime. Weather's finally warmed up to where we can get them out and get them replaced. So got those taken care of. Saw some activity down along Coleman Park on the north side there. We had a request from the city of Waverly to add a little bit more permanent power source next to the band shell. But we also took the opportunity to relocate some overhead to underground services there for the residences that are just north of the park. So crew's got those projects wrapped up and done. And then generation substations, we wrapped up as much as we can on the control and sensor modernization of engine number 9. Under our mean contract of capacity supply, they prefer that we don't take engines down for major maintenance and repairs in the months of May through September. So we'll pick back up this project in the fall. We'll take the engine down for probably about a month or two to complete the conversion to the modernization of the new controls. Wrapped up some work on the coolant sensors on engines 11-16 at the South Load Center. And that was kind of a planned project. Again, just a age-related thing where the sensors are reaching the end of life expectancy. Probably the big project that we kind of oversaw was the GOAP project that we just approved here a little bit ago with our resolutions with the completion of the North Load Center. So, other than that, that's about it.
Very good. Thank you, Kurt.
Thanks.
All right, we'll move on to the communication utility. Action items, there are none listed there, so we'll go on to 12, the information items for the Waverly Communications Utility, the department reports. And Jeff is right there.
I don't have my own microphone, so I get to come up here. So just some highlights over what's occurred from communication side over the last month. So staff continue with cutovers, reconnects, responding to service incidents. So this time of year does get a little busier for us. So we're trying to keep up with the pace of new activations or new installs or changes to service. And, some people want to plan it out pretty well and we can fit them in within a couple weeks. Other people want to have things done right away and we try to accommodate as best we can. Again, from a construction standpoint, pretty active on the NOFA 7 territory. We did activate a test customer in the north side and that's working well. We still have a lot of fiber splicing and activations to occur, but I expect that we'll have someone in the southern territory, probably down by Janesville, activated within the next few weeks.
Jeff, could you just explain what NOVA 7 is to the public?
NOFA 7, Notice of Funding Availability. So Waverly Utilities was awarded a grant through the ARPA funds. It's been a year and a half now, I think, maybe a little bit more. But we were awarded 60% funding to extend our territory to reach underserved and unserved customers. And so the award was given to Waverly Utilities, and we've been doing construction probably for the last 12 months. We completed some build-outs outside the electorate territory. We built out in Anna Estates as part of Bartles Independent Living. And then we also went out just west of Denver in Arrowhead, where there's new development going up. So, and those were requested by the developers. From a engineering broadband side, we've been working on ABR. I know I've been talking about that for probably about a year now too, but working with CFU and the vendor to get adaptive bitrate services in place. That's the way that all the partners will eventually move to within our 2080 agreement. We do have a lot of the channels built. Some of them are in production, some of the normal channels, and some we have built in 1,000 plus. So Channel 7 NBC is built in Channel 7 and 1007 so that we can do some testing. The biggest holdup right now is for us to get ad inserts working in our expanded tier. And so it's a tough time being an election year to go without that. Staff did attend a IMU, Iowa Association of Municipal Utility Broadband Conference. So conference has a variety of topics from a technical standpoint, customer service, and then just some good networking with other utilities to understand what they're doing. One thing that led to that was the realization that in Reedland there's a point of presence or a POP for Arion, which is kind of a statewide provider, and they send out bids every once in a while to interconnect cell towers or large national businesses or state businesses. So we are working to land some fiber services at Reedland's location to give us access and hopefully be more competitive in some of the quotes that we have to return to Arion. I think I informed the board of this a few weeks ago, but there is net neutrality rules that were reinstated. It sounds kind of complicated, but it basically puts communications utility as a formal utility. I think it's more intended, just my personal opinion, more intended to have a little more of a watchdog over larger providers, not necessarily Waverly Utilities. It does put more onus on the utility from a reporting standpoint, but I don't think it'll change dramatically how we have to operate. And then we are updating our provisioning system. So that system talks to the Cogsdale finance system. It talks to the provisioning on the Calix side for your O&Ts. And so that system is due for an update, and the vendor is going to be no longer supporting the current product that we're on. Any other questions?
Jeff, just a quick question.
Sure.
Kind of related to NOFA here too, but do we have an idea of percentage in our area or Bremer County that people that don't have access to like a high speed?
You know, when the NOFA came out, there were certain requirements. If you fell below like 100 meg download, 20 up, then you were considered underserved. I'd have to go back and look at some of those numbers. There is a new federal grant that's coming out that's called BEAD that also has a map of who's unserved or underserved. You know, when I look at the county of Bremer compared to other counties, you know, I think we're doing pretty well, but there's pockets of underserved customers. So I'd have to pull up that map to give you a little bit better idea. Anecdotally, I would say Bremer County is probably doing pretty well.
Okay.
Minus Huber Edition.
What's that?
Minus Huber Edition.
Yeah.
Actually, in this map that they have out, Huber Edition is served.
Which is crazy.
So, yeah, it's a challenge map right now, so if there are some areas that the state or federal government show as underserved that we can identify that we do serve, we'll respond to that. So the program's called BEAD, Broadband Equity, and something else, I can't remember the exact acronym, but the state was awarded over $400 million to kind of fill in those gaps. But that grant has a lot of restrictions and requirements that come along with it.
Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, per Iowa Code 22.7, confidential competitive information.
Kelly and Jen.
Oh, sorry. I didn't go down far enough. Sorry, Kelly and Jen.
Yeah, so the CSR staff continue to perform their day-to-day functions. As Jeff indicated, we're updating ETI, which is that provisioning software, and the CSR team is a big part of that. And we updated the Coxdale for the few new phone rates that we have, and completed some compliance items, 499Q and the IXC certification.
So for May, our campaign was technology, or is, technology helps families stay connected. We run this campaign in the newsletter, radio, and on social media. We are the headline sponsor for the upcoming Chamber Golf Outing, which is this Thursday. So hopefully no rain to be out there for that. But we order promotional golf balls with our logos on it. It's a way for us to network and talk to businesses that are involved in this project. And we've been sponsors for, I don't even know how many years, but it's a good event for us to get our name out there and to talk to other local businesses about our products. Updates were made to the website for the new voice cloud product that we implemented last month, and then posted on social media, or Facebook and Instagram.
All right, thank you, Jen and Kelly. Now we'll go to closed session per Iowa Code 22.7, confidential competitive information. I'll entertain a motion second to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Kelly, or Angie?
Kettleson,
Yes.
Runkhorst.
Aye.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
All right, we'll move to closed session.